Thanks be to God for like super good theology and religion professors who helped me not only dismantle my faith, but rebuild it in a way that had some substantive expression.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't like I just rejected everything. I felt like there was a better way for us to be followers of Jesus.
Hi, we're a group of friends. I'm Jonathan.
Annie.
Katie.
We love to talk about all the things we were never allowed to talk about in church. Sex, sexuality, gender, purity culture, racism, equity, just to name a few. This is a podcast for anyone out there who is looking for fresh ways to think about church, faith community, and spirituality. We believe in the power of responsible storytelling and hope to model this in every episode. Welcome to Sunday School Rejects. Y'all ready for this?
I feel like I'm at Six Flags. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
It'll be, hey, actually, you're at Six Flags. It's going to be a roller coaster of an episode.
Oh, okay. I was like, no, I'm not.
Please keep your hands and your feet inside the vehicle at all times. Yeah, this is going to be a great episode. I'm excited.
I think it'll be great.
We get to talk about feminism.
Me
I love
too.
feminism.
And our interview is great, but we're not going to talk about that yet.
Not
First
yet.
of all, we have first things first. Shall we? Well, I don't want to say it that way. I'm just going to say, let's get biblical.
We shall.
Annie, what do you got for us?
I'm starting with a jump scare. I have to say a very scary Bible verse. Are you ready?
Oh, I thought you were going to start with a white man, and I was like, that is a jump scare.
I'm right here.
It's right there. Okay, I'm going to do it. Wives, submit to your husband.
No!
Children, submit to your parents.
Pass.
Enslaved, submit to your earthly masters.
Yikes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Rut-row.
We're going to talk about household codes.
That's in the Bible.
Ugh, gross. Do you guys know, when I say the phrase household codes, do you know what I'm talking about?
I'll be honest, I don't.
Cool.
I do, but I know that a lot of our listeners absolutely do not.
Yeah. Would you like to speak on it a little bit, Jonathan?
Yeah. So
Is
we've-
this pause. Is this a biblical term, or is this a everyday thing that exists? Or is it something that was biblical and is made into existence because of the Bible?
Amazing question.
Yes.
Thank you.
So this, in the realm of academia,
Mhm.
especially over the last few decades, this has been a concept by New Testament scholars to help understand what was happening actually in Roman Empire households and that impact on what you're reading in Paul's writings in the Bible.
Okay.
Yep. So these are it's a uniquely Roman invention that appears in the Bible. It is not a initially biblical thing, but it shows up in the Bible.
Yeah. So there is influence, and we see that in the beautiful, beautiful text that Annie just wrote.
Yes, lovely.
And
Read.
follow-up question.
Yes.
Because I know you've talked about pseudonymity.
Uh-huh.
Is this something that we think Paul wrote?
Wow, Katie, you gold star. You exactly predicted what I'm about to say next.
Gosh.
But Jonathan, would you like to?
Oh,
You
yeah,
skipped
sorry.
ahead.
Sorry,
skipped
I just
ahead.
wanted to know that before we jumped into household codes
Yes.
because
She's gifted and talented.
That will be
Yes.
very, very relevant. But would you give us a little bit more of a rundown on
Yeah,
household
absolutely.
codes?
So there's a really helpful chart. So on a previous week, we gave you a source for a book by Elizabeth Schussler Fiorenza. I'm so sorry. It's so much. Wisdom's Ways. That has this amazing chart. On page 132, that I will now show my colleagues. There it is. Yes. It's not really the most beautiful.
maybe we can find a chart and link it in the show
Yeah,
notes.
absolutely.
Okay.
But the household codes really start nailing down where hierarchy is and what Fiorenza calls kyriarchal households. So the Kyrios, or the Lord of the house, is always on top of the pyramid.
Okay.
And then the pyramid goes down. So this is not necessarily what some folks think of as misogyny are the power of masculinity over femininity. It's more nuanced. So you have the Lord on the top. That is a male Lord on the top of the pyramid. Next is the lady. So the lady is the that Lord's partner, spouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Below that are the adult sons.
Okay.
And then it gets really wonky. You have freeborn, unmarried women. So I guess almost like virginal women on the next. Then there's the freeborn, so non-slaves, members of the Roman Empire who are artisans and workers. Then you have the freeborn, so Roman Empire, officially Roman Empire citizens, working women.
Mm-hmm.
Then freed women, so that would be those who technically are not necessarily in the workforce. Then you go down to settlers, immigrants, slave men, slave women, aliens, so those who are not part of the empire, and then animals, uncivilized world.
Okay. So you just said a lot of words.
Yes, absolutely. The chart
And
helps.
I would like to know why that should matter to me.
Very good. What's important to know about this is that this was extremely integral to the Roman culture. And Rome didn't necessarily differentiate between religion and government and social life. Like, it was all one thing. And so, so the function of the entirety of Rome and Roman culture, and ultimately the universe, was upheld by people following this rule. You did not deviate from household codes. It didn't matter if you were a foreigner with a different god. Like, you had to follow these household codes. That was very important to Roman society and Roman culture. So now that we've covered household codes, thank you, Jonathan, very much. We can talk to your point, Katie, about the pseudonymous writing, which is very relevant. We talked about that more in a previous episode. Essentially, there are authentic letters of Paul and there are disputed letters of Paul. All of the household codes in the Bible appear in the disputed letters of Paul. So authentic Paul does not talk about the household codes, which I think is very interesting. We can draw a lot of conclusions from that. So one of the main points I want to make here is that the original Jesus movement, the things that Jesus talked about, the things that authentic Paul talked about, were pretty controversial, particularly towards that hierarchy that we just talked about. Women were given a status within the Jesus movement that Rome did not like and did not acknowledge. Same with children. Like, everyone was given a slightly higher status in the early Jesus movement that just didn't exist in the Roman world. And that is key here, because what's happening later down the road as the Jesus movement kind of grows and gets bigger and evolves is that they're drawing unwanted attention from Rome. Rome is like, you guys got to follow the rules. This is important to the function of Rome and ultimately the universe.
Okay.
We have to uphold these rules.
So they're over there like, you're eating with tax collectors. You're saying prostitutes are cool.
You're saying women can participate in your thing. Like,
you're saying that
that's not
children are the kingdom of God?
Yes, exactly.
The last shall be first, the first shall be last. No.
So Roman officials are really honing in on this, and the early Christian movement is sort of drawing heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of being watched by Rome. Also, the surrounding culture thinks what they're doing is weird. And this is getting to the point where it's going to escalate if something doesn't change. So what these people who are writing in the name of Paul are doing is essentially saying, hey guys, we got to cool it. If we want to survive, if we want to make it, we are going to have to follow some of the rules. Here are the rules. Now, obviously, they make it make sense through a Christian lens, right? Because that's their audience. That's what they're doing. They're like, we're going to sort of baptize these Roman rules into our Christian doctrine. But I would assert that these household codes were not a feature of early Christianity, but rather a response to the threatening equality of early Christianity. So I like to think of these more as a hopeful survival manual than a divinely mandated structure to be upheld.
Would you say a little more political?
Much more political.
A little more political, less focused on our faith, more focused on we need to make it out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, especially if we look at the words of Jesus and authentic Paul, like, there's a radical equality thing that's happening there that just was so uncommon for the time and that was so threatening. And I think that's more at the core of what the original Christian movement wanted for the movement than what these later codes were asking of us.
And it's just the whole concept of Pax Romana, like the peace of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
The Roman Empire really just doesn't want anything outside the status quo. They want structure. They want to maintain power. This is how they maintain power is within this hierarchical structure.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. And if you're in a heterosexual marriage, the next time someone says submit to your husband, say, that was ancient Rome.
Exactly. Mic drop. Katie,
Annie?
you got to interview someone really cool.
Okay, I did.
Yeah.
It was kind of amazing.
It was a great interview.
I really appreciate that, friend.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I got to interview Amy Butler. For those of you who have not heard of her, she is a well-known pastor and minister. Much of her career has been spent helping build communities of radical witness in the institutional church, and she is currently serving as designated pastor of the Community Church of Honolulu in Hawaii. I don't want to brag, but it was a fun time.
It sounded like it.
Yeah.
I can't wait for y'all to hear this.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I think it's going to be good. I do want to note really quick, we do mention childhood sexual abuse, and we would be remiss and irresponsible if we didn't offer a resource there. So if you or someone you know needs resources regarding sexual abuse, you can go to rain.org. That's RAINN.org. Or you can text HOPE, HOPE, to 64673. Let's get into it. I have the incredible Amy Butler with us. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here.
You're very, very kind. So this first season, we are tackling one of the very hottest topics on our list, and that is purity culture. And you mentioned earlier you have a lot to say about it, so I would love to just kind of even hear your experience with it, and we'll see where we go.
Oh, geez. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. My parents raised me in the with the Dobson manual at their right at hand, and I'm here in Hawaii living near my parents now, and we've had a lot of conversations, especially after he's named in the Epstein files, and just that toxic idea of purity and how it takes those of us who were raised in it our whole lives to emerge with some semblance of health, if we can do that. What a terrible thing to do to generations of kids.
Truly, yeah. It's quite interesting to see how pervasive it was, and then also to witness so many different generations of individuals having experienced it. I mentioned before I read your book, and I know that you talked about how your grandmother gave you a copy of Elizabeth Elliot's Passion and Purity. I was like, okay, so we started like young. We're like, here you go. Here's your copy. Let's get going.
Listen, I'm older than true love waits. I mean, like, I didn't even have time to wait for that. Like that was generations after me that went through that. But we're doing the whole Elizabeth Elliot crazy stuff, and not only like purity, but like the idea that socially speaking, for a woman, our success comes from our proximity to men and the ability to make them happy and have children and take all on these traditional roles, none of which are bad, but guess what? We can't make men happy. They have to do their own work. And I think, we're seeing that play out, real time in our political landscape right now. But that's kind of an aside. But
Sure.
we
No,
can blame at least part of it on purity culture, don't you think?
I think so. I think it's interesting to see how much it formulated our own relationships. I mean, even you talking about our proximity to men and making them happy and really believing growing up like, okay, I'm supposed to get married. That's the and isn't that going to be like the most beautiful thing in the world? And like I can't wait for my wedding day. And I am someone who hopes to get married one day, but like that is not all of my personality and I thought it was supposed to be all of my personality.
Yes. Yes. In fact, we were mentioning before we began recording that you're in Waco. I'm a graduate of Baylor University, and one of the most formational experiences I had in college was during my week of orientation. I lived in Russell Dorm,
Mhm.
and we were moving into our rooms, and the RAs came and they herded us all out into the courtyard. Those of you who have been to Russell know there's a courtyard in the middle, and we had to stand in a circle, and the they brought over the boys from Pennington, and they walked around us like we were like,
Cattle?
I don't know, cows? I don't know. And if they liked us, they asked us for our phone number. I can still remember
What?
that. I remember exactly what I was wearing. I remember like fully buying into purity culture and standing there thinking, there's something wrong with this.
That's
This
so
doesn't feel
icky.
right.
Oh my
And
gosh.
nobody wanted my phone number. I just don't know why.
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry because I think that that would be so. I think if I were in that position, I would feel so hurt by that.
Right? I
um,
was like failing at this central thing that I was taught I had to be.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I didn't. Gosh, my first actual relationship wasn't until I was in my late 20s because no one had asked me out. But like, and having so much value put on that of like, oh my gosh, I'm undesirable. And if I am undesirable, then I have no worth. And
That's
my
right.
brain equating that to, and it goes back to purity culture. It can't not.
Yeah.
It's really
So what do you
interesting.
make of like this trend that's really getting bashed right now about women? I would say my age, I'm about to turn 56, who can build their own lives and can make a life that's calm and peaceful and support themselves and just don't need men anymore, and how that's getting bashed so hard from
Hmm.
the right. There there are a lot of women out there like that who just are not willing to put up with what we were willing to put up with in our 20s.
So much of our ability to exist in the world relied on being tied to a man, whether that was opening our own bank accounts, whether that was owning property. I don't think it would have been feasible for someone like my grandparents, my grandma, when she was my age, to own a house. Like, not possible. And like, she had to go and get married. And in fact, that is what she did. She had 9 other siblings. She was one of the oldest. And so she took care of a lot of her younger siblings. And the moment she could get married and get out so that she could kind of start doing her life, she did. Um, and it's not like that anymore. But yes, you're right. It's definitely being vilified and kind of what we're seeing today, which is so funny to me because yeah, I don't want to put up I'm not going to put up with something that's mediocre, especially if I have value in myself and I care about myself. Why would I waste my time with someone who is not worth my time?
Exactly. Oh gosh, I hope you're gonna have all the answers by the end of this this conversation.
I would love to have all the answers, but I also think well, we're just doing the best we can, what we have. I would love to know how your parent and how did purity culture have any influence on the way that you parented your children?
Mm, that's such a good question. I when I review, well, so my children are adults
Mhm.
because purity culture. Like I had my first child when I was 24, and so he's turning 32 this year, and I have three, and they're all independent and they're all adults, and um, they were firmly raised without purity culture as part of their Christian education or cultural education. And if there's one thing that I think I did right, I think I see them exhibiting so much more like comfort with themselves, ability to be in healthy relationships, understanding of differences,
Mhm.
and how we build community, making space for everybody because they didn't have that hanging around their neck. And they're all responsible and they're
Mhm.
all, you know, in loving relationships. And sometimes I'm grateful for that, but sometimes I wonder how my life would have been different if I did not have all of that baggage.
Sure. No, absolutely. I am curious how this is going to sound silly. How did you manage that having been in the church and like also being a pastor? How did they manage to escape the world of purity culture? Because I'm turning 32 this year and I experienced it, right? So I guess I'm just curious how you managed to do that when you were so involved in the church.
Interesting. Well, since I was a pastor, I got to dictate a lot of what was
Period.
being taught from the pulpit, and um, we built our family life in such a way that our kids were always introduced to people who were different. Our next door neighbors, Ellen and Julie, had two kids and they were married to each other. And, I can remember, I think I mentioned it in the book, the time our church became open and affirming, and
Mhm.
Hannah was just outraged. She just never thought that that was a possibility that people would be
Yeah.
excluded. And so I tried to be so intentional about rejecting rejecting that ideology. Thanks be to God for like super good theology and religion professors who helped me not only dismantle my faith but rebuild it in a way that had some substantive expression.
Mhm.
It wasn't like I just rejected everything. I felt like there was a better way for us to be followers of Jesus, and um, I hope that's something I pass along to my kids.
It sounds like you have. I think if you're sharing this the way you're sharing it right now, it sounds like they know, which I think is really special. As someone who has parents and even knowing that I was subjected to purity culture, like getting to have conversations with them now, I'm so thankful for them. And I would say that I don't want to speak on behalf of your children, but I imagine they know that. I imagine you've taught them well.
Yeah, I hope so. So I got divorced when Hayden, my oldest, was 15. And then, like since I was married when I was 19, I didn't, that was before the internet was invented.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know like how to date or how you, engage in a relationship really as an adult,
Hmm.
and have, still been working to figure that out. I mean, I pour a lot of my relational energy into building the church.
Hmm.
And I have a young associate who she just thinks that I need to get a life. And so she did Star Words this year at Epiphany, and my Star word she chose for me, it was called it's desire. And I told her, I mean, I feel like you like stacked that and chose it specifically for me. She insists that it was a complete coincidence, but I've taken that as my invitation to sort of look beyond the walls of the church to figure out how to build meaningful community as a grown up adult. And I think purity culture just robbed that from
Hmm.
a lot of us.
It's hard. I think if you are a grown up with a fully developed prefrontal cortex, that unless you have gone to therapy of some kind with a good therapist, it's kind of hard to know how to build relationships. Um, and I think that's something that I wrestled with too with purity culture. And I don't think I realized it until I was probably 5 years ago. I was a prevention educator, and so I got to go into schools and teach social emotional learning content because studies show that when we teach that to children at a young age, and I taught kinder through high school, um, they're less likely to commit crimes against one another in the future because they see other people as human beings. So I taught a curriculum that included lessons on respect and empathy and identity and stereotypes and healthy relationships and consent. And consent is, I don't think, was ever talked about within purity culture.
Oh no. Oh no. No,
And
no, no.
it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Well, I think it's an expression of seeing women as second-class citizens or not really human or whatever you want, however you want to say it. I mean,
Hmm.
in that world, we were born to have children and manage families so men could be happy.
Hmm.
And I mean, that's what I learned. Um,
Sure.
and I think it's a whole lifelong process of unlearning. And I think for some of us, it's like looking back at mistakes. My therapist always say, okay, let's go through your past relationships and think about what you learned in each one of them, which is a wholly depressing exercise. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm trying.
No, yeah, it's important. And I think it's hard. I think something that you said that really stuck with me was pleasing men and basically making sure that men are okay.
Yes.
Which leads me to a thought that I had also while reading your book, which you mentioned being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And
Yes.
I am also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And
Yeah.
it's,
I'm sorry.
thank you. I'm sorry too. That never should have happened to little Amy and nor your sisters. Um,
Yeah.
I think to when I was processing it in therapy, because I didn't realize it had happened until I was already out of college. I was in my 20s and realized I couldn't like remember a section of life. And um, the gut feeling that kept coming back up was like, I just didn't want anyone to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And knowing that it was like protecting a man of some sort, right? And making sure that they were okay and not speaking out on the thing that happened to me. And
Yeah.
so I think about that also in the context of purity culture and then how do you move forward, especially as someone who experienced abuse and now you're told like, okay, this is what purity is. And how does that impact our internal perception of our value?
Yeah, it's kind of like the rules don't apply to a certain group of people, and also we're dispensable. Our
Mhm.
bodies are bad, you know, like all of the ripples of these lessons that we've learned. I've thought about it a lot as we're watching the Epstein files roll out and all of these very wealthy, powerful men who will never be held responsible
Mm-mm.
for their behavior. I mean, James Dobson did that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw a post today of someone critiquing everything and they mentioned it's like I think I've seen people have more of a like legal situation happen to them for protesting what's happening in Palestine than I am seeing any legal like ramifications for these files.
Absolutely. And I realized this week how unsurprised I am.
Mm,
And that is just like heartbreaking to me. Like, Yeah.
Definitely. I think sometimes when I'm not surprised, like, because I agree with you, I think I'm also not surprised. I think about the saying, like, there's nothing new under the sun. And then I think back to beautiful works that we have that were made by incredible people like Octavia Butler. And I often think of Parable of the Sower, which I read in 2024 because she actually opens the novel in 2024, which is wild to have seen
Mm,
all of the parallels that were
yes.
happening already. And it's some of it is comforting because I think my ancestors knew this and they still know this and they're still with me and we're going to figure it out together. But it is also just so heartbreaking because it's like my ancestors knew and we didn't listen.
Yeah. 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 And one of the things you'll laugh at this because I laugh at it. Like I didn't know that m- men also are scared
Hmm.
and don't like their bodies and have hangups about sex and were badly impacted by purity culture. And I think there are so many of us who have survived sexual assault, but who also just operate in this Christian, I'm using air quotes,
Hmm.
culture of purity who have taken on a survival mode. We're here because we survived,
Hmm.
and I I I'm coming around to the fact that men have really been victims of this too. I don't
Absolutely.
understand, and I'm still pissed about it, but I I'm I have I have realized that.
Sure. I think sometimes, I mean, first of all, you have every right to be pissed about it. I'm pissed about it too. Absolutely. Um, I think so often we don't realize, and I talk about this often with friends, it's like the systems that are in place are also meant to hurt the people who have the most privilege. Misogyny does hurt men, whether they want to admit it or not. The patriarchy does hurt men, whether they want to admit it or not. It's a system that says we have to be a certain way in order to receive the thing we want most or in order to avoid pain, right? And it's just, that's not how it has to be. And I think about what you said even at the beginning when we started this interview of, well, I'm going to tell the truth because I'm too tired to do anything else. And I think, what if we all just told the truth? What if like I
Happens.
know, well,
Yeah.
like what happens if like we give everyone permission to be like admit when they're scared and when they're worried and we get to like show up at the table as our full selves.
Do you think we can change things? Because I think about it a lot, like the story I told you about Russell Hall, like
Mhm.
think about what that experience taught those young boys
Yeah.
about how to relate to women, but I've lived as a pastor in this male dominated field during such an interesting time. When
Mhm.
I got divorced, I did not know any pastors who were divorced. I barely even knew any women who were pastors.
Mhm.
And, I so much has changed around our institutions finally and coming late to the table, accepting our LGBTQ community
Mhm.
and moving beyond those prejudices that we attach to our faith. And um, please tell me, I hope in 100 years people look back on this time and say, "Oh, this was a moment of sea change for people of faith." I hope so.
Sure. I I want to say yes because I believe in humanity. I believe in people like myself and in people like you. I mean, you just talked about how your kids didn't grow up with purity culture, and that's huge. And I think it's a small wave, but it's something that changes things in the future. It changes how, if they choose to have children, how they teach their children. It changes the people that are around them.
Oh gosh, I hope so. we're going through this interesting shift at church. The church I pastor is a small, ethnically Chinese church here in Hawaii, and
Mhm.
um, the church has undergone a tremendous amount of growth in the past few years, and so we've had to bring someone on to help with pastoral care. And so we have an older a retired man who
Mhm.
used to be a minister in our congregation, and I asked him if he'd like to work 4 hours a week. And oh my gosh, you would have thought that I like hired Jesus. And he laughs about it too, because I mean, I hear people say it all the time. It just feels so comforting to have a man,
Oh my god.
just just enjoy, like
Yeah.
whatever. It's so wild to me, even after all these years of pastoring myself.
Mhm. I think
Yeah.
that's when what's that famous Mr. Roger quote? Like, look for the helpers. I think if we look for all of the ways that things have not changed, we are always going to find them and they're super valid. And I think we need to call them out. But I also think that there are people like us who are trying to change. And I think that makes a difference. I don't know if it makes a difference for everyone, but I also think when I try to think of making a difference for everyone, I get really overwhelmed.
Yeah, I do have to say over the course of my career, some of the most impactful um, influences in my own ability to develop as a leader have been older white men who have taken their role as advocates and mentors very seriously,
Mhm.
and stepped aside, made room for me in their pulpits, and taught me things that I wasn't allowed to learn in other places. And I have a short list of these great white men, and thanks be to God for them.
Mhm.
And then it's incumbent upon those of us who have privilege now
Mhm.
to do as you say, change the patterns for the future.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're all hoping for.
It's been so interesting. My niece has recently moved here to Hawaii with her wife, Rachel, and my parents, very conservative
Mhm.
evangelicals, and they're just so repeatedly shocked at the love they feel for Evangeline and Rachel, and um, just the way that the system that they have served their whole life is so exclusionary for people who they love. And my hope is that like our religious institutions can be places where we can encounter people who we never really thought about including before,
Mhm.
and change the lenses by which we see the world.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's the kingdom of God, right? It's getting to see all the people that we didn't expect and getting to see God's face in them. So I think that's a
I hope so.
beautiful, yeah, I think that's a beautiful place to end off on. To close
Wait,
out.
wait, wait! You didn't tell me how to fix purity culture.
Oh yeah.
I've been waiting for
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So TBD, I'll let you know. I'll send you an email later when I've got all of my ducks in a row and I've got it all figured out because I'm sure we'll solve it. I'm sure we'll solve it. One of the questions that we are asking all of our guests is what is something that you are giving yourself a gold star for today? So it feels very Sunday school, right? And it can be big or it could be small. It could be something that you have been experiencing and going through, or it could be something that happened today that you're proud of yourself for.
Okay, so this is gonna seem so pedantic, but like I'm really bad at this because I've spent most of my career like breaking expectations and, you know, being the odd one out, but I have had to um, really learn how to rest in very intentional ways, and seeing rest as resistance, which seems, cliche, but these are moments that we can't not be here for. And so I'm going to give myself a gold star for forcing myself to rest today. How about that?
I love that. That's so good. I'm so proud of you. And like, rest really is resistance. I love Trisha Hersey. I love the Nap Ministry. I feel like I've learned so much from her. And her book is really incredible as well. And I've not finished it because I feel like I read a small section and then I'm like, wow, now I have to unlearn all of the things that I've ever been told my entire life. And I'm going to have to sit with this for a minute and then I'll come back months later and read the next little section.
Right. I think that's related to purity culture too. I mean, our
Yeah.
value is in what we produce, and I'm just trying to relearn and reject that and relearn a different, more sustainable way to move in the world.
I love that.
Again, I'll let you know how it goes.
You let me know how that goes and I will get back to you on fixing purity culture.
Awesome.
Okay,
Great.
perfect. Thank you so much, Amy.
You're welcome.
Katie, that was an incredible episode, interview with really Baptist royalty. Like, she's a really big deal. She's been a forerunner of women in ministry in the Baptist world. And I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I grew up at a church that still does not even ordain women, so that she's doing the work she's doing in the world and being really a champion for what we believe should be women in ministry is just remarkable.
She was so cool. I loved when I asked her, I was like, well, how did you manage to not have purity culture? She was like, well, I was in charge. I was like, period.
I knew she went to Baylor, but when she started talking about which dorm she was in, I was like, oh yeah, you like really went to Baylor. I know
Russell,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, wasn't that story ridiculous?
It was horrifying, but also, why was I not shocked by it? Like, I was just like, oh yeah, that sounds like something I could have encountered. Thank God I didn't. But she mentioned passion and purity. I always reference I Kiss Dating Goodbye. He references passion and purity over and over again in his book. So there's this weird through line of like this generational purity culture from the early 80s that's still like, I mean, I don't want to name names of people who are still, I mean, I guess we could, but yeah, I mean, you can see that through line.
Yep.
That's just,
That's what really stood out to me as well. And I don't know how much we want to talk about this specifically, but she made a connection from James Dobson to the Epstein files. Like, she named that. And I think that is such an incredible example of exactly the magnitude of what can happen when we are a little too fast and loose with our interpretation of an application of how we live our lives according to the Bible. Like, the things that James Dobson taught, he claimed were biblical, and it just spiraled into this reality that allows for, not that he's necessarily a direct cause of the Epstein files, but he's a cause for us like making excuses for men's behavior like that.
Well, and I think, again, back to that, like what I brought up to Amy, but I think I've also talked about it in earlier episodes of consent and how that was just never a subject that we went over in church and school, none of it.
well, and Annie, what you just said about what Dobson was doing in teaching things that were biblical. Well, there's a lot of things in the Bible that are not involved with consent, that are horrifying, but are validations of men's bad behavior today. And so that's the danger of using the Bible as a weapon, is that you can cherry pick those points to go, oh, well, yeah, men need to be the dominant gender role here, and men can do whatever they want. And
yeah,
if women would just submit to their husbands, we wouldn't have all this craziness.
I just don't. It's really, really wild to me, and I don't know who's in charge, but I would like a strong word with them.
yeah,
it's really, it's pretty jarring. And we look at the society, and I've mentioned this before, but we look at the society that we're in, and the patriarchy and sexism and misogyny. And I'll say it again that these are systems that also harm men.
Mm.
They also hurt men. These systems are not made for anyone. And justifying behavior, well, first of all, it's never justify bad behavior. But second, like, it doesn't help anyone. It only hurts us. And I think that's why these conversations are so important, because we want something new and we want an alternative where perhaps we could be responsible and perhaps we could own our mistakes and perhaps we could make something new. And we've talked about that before. We did with Jeremy Williams and the abolition and whatnot, but maybe there is a different alternative that we have not yet considered, and how do we get to that place?
Mm-hmm. Because consent ultimately places power back in our hands, right? When we agree to do something with each other and we both consent to something that gives us the power, instead of the power is only God's, or we blame the devil for the things that we've done wrong. Like it forces accountability that doesn't exist in the world in which we don't have consent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gosh, the word accountability, because I remember that concept of accountability partners. And when I was and it's like, what does that even mean? Like, accountable for these bad systems that we still want to keep constructed? Like, that was...
It just feels like a tattletale. Well, thank y'all for tuning into this interview. I'm glad that it happened, and I felt like I learned a lot. And maybe, perhaps, we will solve purity culture.
Can you CC me on that email thread with Amy so that I can
yes.
also know how to overcome
Yeah,
this?
I'll CC everyone. That'll be great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
To close out our episode, we, of course, have to mention some really good resources. And let's start with Amy Butler's book. So I read this book in preparation for this interview. Cannot recommend it enough. It is called Beautiful and Terrible Things. Check it out at your local library. Buy it from your local Christian bookshop, or just your local bookstore.
Yeah, definitely. Shop local, everyone. A book I read a while back, which I think is really definitely pertains to this episode. It's a book by Linda K. Klein called Pure: Inside the Evangelical Movement That Shamed a Generation of Young Women and How I Broke Free.
Ooh.
Sorry, long subtitle, but really, really powerful stuff of a woman living through the purity culture. And honestly, purity culture, time and time again, and we learned this, and we're reminded of this again today with Katie and Amy talking about it. It really does harm women in such a horrible way. And so I found Linda K. Klein's book to be really helpful in finding a path out of purity culture.
Very good. I have a very broad resource. It's not actually a super specific resource. So I don't actually know how helpful this is, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Is it the Bible?
It's the Bible. Read it.
It's Jesus.
No, don't do that.
Don't read the Bible.
I mean, you can if you want to, whatever.
Annie.
At Bright, I got to take a class on Black women's poetry. That was extremely impactful for me. And so broadly, I want to say read poetry written by women of color. And if you do need a place to start, I really liked Audre Lorde's writing. Poetry is powerful in a way that other forms of communication just can't quite reach. And so I think it's important to plug things that are artistic like poetry. So I highly recommend reading Audre Lorde.
Love that. Hi, friends. We hope you've been enjoying the podcast. Really quick ask. We want to know if there are things that you want to talk to us about or have feedback on these last few episodes you've heard. And we're hoping to have it be our last episode of the season. So if you have any thoughts, questions, etc., feel free to send us an email at ssr@goodfaithmedia.org. We'll also put that link in the show notes. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us for Sunday School Rejects. A huge thank you to all of our sponsors. You can find more information in our show notes. Please go and follow Good Faith Media on Instagram, on Facebook, and follow the rest of the amazing podcast there. you can reach out to us. Send us feedback and information on how we're doing. Our email is ssr@goodfaithmedia.org, or you can find us on Instagram @Sunday School Rejects. Till next time, practice responsible storytelling and just take care of yourself and take care of each other. Love you all.